Are you an adventurer looking to take your hunt to the next level? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the East Meets West Hunt podcast presented by onX. The onX Hunt app is the premium GPS hunting app available for your phone, your tablet, and also on your desktop, and they all link together. So one of the things that is basically what onX was built around was being able to find you access, whether that's private lands, whether that's government lands in the form of state game lands, state forests, national forests, BLM, and also possible access. So in certain states, and like specifically in Pennsylvania, there'll be areas that have like a grid over it when you have this layer turned on. And what the PA possible access is, and again, I'll just talk specifically on Pennsylvania, but this is available to many other states. So onX has mapped over 520,000 acres of possible access lands just in Pennsylvania, including timber and land conservation groups that possibly have access to public hunting. You can look through their websites, you can look up any of that stuff to be able to figure out whether you're available to hunt that or not. Some of them have it labeled, say right on the gate, it'll say open to public hunting. Some you can find on the website if you're traveling from afar. I've used this feature in Ohio to kill a buck on what would be essentially private land that was open to public access. And also I do it in Pennsylvania all the time, hunting timber company properties and other different land conservation groups. So if you check out the onX Hunt app at onxmaps.com, use the coupon code EMW. That'll save yourself 20% off the Hunt app. The University of Elk Hunting online course was developed by Corey Jacobson and the team at Elk 101, and it is a complete resource for increasing your elk hunting knowledge. I mean, everything that you can think of from the beginning stages to the end will help increase your confidence and hopefully your success. I truly think that this has helped me in my 4-year journey, reduce that learning curve and get me opportunities where, it might have taken me longer to be able to learn that. So in addition to just getting all that knowledge, you're also getting discounts from the Elk 101 partners, including 15% off your elk hunting gear from the Elk 101 store, which in turn, depending on what you need, can pay for the course itself. So if you head over to elk101.com at the University of Elk Hunting, use the coupon code eastmeetswest. That'll save yourself 20% off of that online course. And Tethered. So Tethered, I just got in the mail the new Phantom saddle. So what is so cool about the Phantom saddle? I used the Manus last year. Amazing, extremely comfortable. But the way I explain this is the Phantom is, say, the LTZ version, if you're thinking of like a Chevy truck, versus the LT version, which is the Mantis. So it just has some additional comfort items to that. So to explain that a little more, they added comfort channels, which provide all day comfort with easy to use with high, medium, and low support settings. And especially for trees that are leaning towards you or leaning away, you can kind of adjust that. The new Utila bridge is, something in the past that hunters had to sacrifice user friendliness or accept more bulk and weight to really have a truly on-demand adjustable bridge. But this is able to do it with Featherlight Amsteel Blue, and being able to just really have about 30 inches of on-the-fly adjustability to kind of find your sweet spot. There's no metal, there's no bulk. It's the strongest adjustable bridge ever made. And then lastly, the lineman loops have been re-engineered to make sure that they're more user-friendly and even stronger than ever before. And it's not only that the Phantom is the most efficient elevated hunting saddle ever built, it's 100% made in America with a rating to 300 pounds. So check that out over at tetherednation.com and also the rest of the saddle hunting gear that they have available. All right, so I want to start by going into today's mountain buck story. So Mountain Buck Monday was yesterday over on the Instagram and Facebook pages. And this story is from Taylor Chamberlain. So Taylor wrote, in 2018, on the last day before my 2-week rutcation, I drove up to the State Forest Road in northern PA, where I was able to access most of my stand locations, not only to find a vehicle parked at the overlooked trail up the mountain, but a group of 3 young guys packing out a buck they shot the evening before. Rather than getting upset, I stopped to chat, later exchanging phone numbers and hiking up together several times throughout the season and to scout the ridge the following spring. Fast forward to fall of 2019, we braved the elements on Halloween as we camped on the ridge in tents amidst 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts, a 30-degree temperature drop, and pouring rain and snow. When this buck came into a scrape at 15 yards in a saddle the next evening, needless to say, all our discomforts were proven worthwhile, putting an exclamation point on the 2-year quest of dragging a buck off that ridge. And that story by Taylor is what hunting's all about. I mean, we're all here with a common goal, as you'll hear Steve and I talk about that in this 2-part series here. And instead of getting upset of someone hunting in the area, Taylor worked with them that ended up with a friendship and then ultimately success. So thanks for sharing that, Taylor. And I want everyone else to send in your mountain buck stories as well as any other success stories when it comes to maybe hunting out west for the first time or anything along those lines. Maybe something you learned from this podcast, from the articles, the video series, whatever that is, send it in. I want to hear it. I want to share it with everyone else. So I really enjoy these stories. And head over, like I said, to the social media platforms to check out the photo of the 4 guys and Taylor's buck. All right. I also, before we get into this episode here with Steve Sherk, which actually this is going to be a 2-part series, but I want to give a little teaser. Next week, I have Chris Derrick coming back on from Sitka Gear, and we're going to talk all about building a whitetail system, a clothing system for, again, hunting whitetails, and really is pertinent to us hunting the big woods public land setting. And we're going to be doing some big giveaways, including the new mobile hunting pack that I still can't give the name to yet, but as of next week, I'll be able to release that information. We're giving away that pack and also the new jacket that's coming out from Sitka Gear. So I can't wait to be able to give this stuff away and give back. So stay tuned next week for details on that, and over at social media that'll show you how to enter that giveaway. And so, like I said, on this episode with Steve Sherk, this will be a 2-part series. I broke it in half because a lot of good information here, and I found a good breaking point here. But on this one here, we're going to talk about scouting buck beds, a proven trail camera strategy that is just, I'm going to take a lot from this trail camera strategy here from Steve, along with everything else, but then how to set up for the kill and being confident in your plan to succeed year after year. And he dives into his 3-day strategy, his thoughts on mobile hunting versus set stands, just a lot of really, really good information here. So I hope you enjoy this episode, and don't forget part 2 will be coming out in a few days, so check that out as well. All right, welcome back to another episode of the East Meets West Hunt podcast, and I'm sitting here in northern Pennsylvania in this beautiful hunting camp with Steve Sherk. What's going on, man?
No, we've been talking for a while now, and I found out today we live so close, and yet we failed to connect. So it's a long time coming, and I think it's pretty cool. 2 PA guys that hunt the same. Almost, the more we talked on the ride here, we realized we're almost hunting the same area. So, so I think it's going to be pretty cool to butt our heads together and just talk about deer and what we know in this area. And I know I'm looking forward to it.
And as we said, as we were driving here in the truck, we have theories on things, and we like theories because us as deer hunters, if you don't have theories, if you think everything's fact that most of the time you're wrong, right?
Absolutely. So no, I know I'm going to throw some opinions out there, and I hope that everyone listening will feel like they learned something, and most importantly, enjoyed us talking.
Yeah, that's really cool. And like you said, it's crazy. Steve and I literally live like 30 minutes from each other and didn't realize that until we connected here. And we were going to do a video portion here, but Mother Nature had a different story for us. So we're going to get back together and do some scouting videos or something. I'm really, really pumped to see, through the I guess your eyes, the way of going about it. I did this last spring. I got together with two guys. One's a friend of mine, Johnny Stewart. You might have seen him on Instagram or something.
Yep.
And Greg Litzinger, and these two guys. So they're coming from different areas, and we just got together and scouted a brand new area together.
Oh, cool.
And watched how each other kind of does things differently and learned. And it's so cool to be able to get with other people that are like-minded, but all have their own styles to.
Definitely. Even, I know we might talk and tell some people about my guide service, but I know like guiding, people would think that the guide is the only one teaching and telling everyone how it goes. But I bet I learned something from every client I take, whether the guy's hunted one time or has more experience than me. Anytime you get with anyone really, then there's always something different everyone knows.
Yep.
So that's just been a huge benefit to me as a guide. Like, it's not always my knowledge, but my experience with so many different people, I'm learning something from everyone.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, that's super cool. And so, yeah, as you did mention there, do you want to give a little background on yourself, Steve, and then also with your guide service?
Yep. So I have a guide service called Sherk's Guide Service, and it's in the Allegheny Mountains just outside of Bradford, PA. And it's a lot of it's in the Allegheny National Forest. And if you're not familiar with the land, like, there's a bunch of other public lands around here too that we have access to. So we're probably guiding on literally several 100,000 acres of land, all big woods. And I've been doing it about 7 years now, and people from all over the country are coming, and I've made a ton of great friends. I don't really even call them my clients. They're, everybody. If you like deer hunting, especially as much as me, you're my friend in a second. So I've made so many great friends that way, and I'm just having a great time doing it. And it's led me into situations like this where, I'm doing podcasts with people like you, and it's just been so much fun and opened up so many doors that I could never have any regrets doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's and again, as we talked about a little bit earlier, that's a tough thing is guiding in these type areas, because even for our own selves, it's tough enough to get it done, and to take someone that may not be familiar with hunting, the Pennsylvania Appalachian mountain region and big woods, big timber. This isn't farm country. This isn't the same. They're really not even the same animals, in my opinion. They're just.
You're so right.
And to do that it's got to be, one, frustrating, but also extremely rewarding when it all pans out.
Yeah, it's like you hit the nail on the head. People ask me, ahead of time, what's it like or what can I expect? And I try to give them the rundown, but when they come here, usually after one day, they're like, man, this is not what I expected. But it's not like it's a bad thing either. Like, the woods are just so big here. It's just one of those things you can't really describe unless you come. And the way we hunt and how we hunt, it's just it's a really unique thing that probably a lot of hunters throughout the whole country have never really hunted an area like this with the kind of tactics and the way we do things. So I think I can't say I've ever had anyone come that wasn't like, wow, that wasn't a great time. So,
yeah.
Pennsylvania may not be known for deer hunting, but I encourage anyone, if you've never hunted Pennsylvania, especially, the big woods, even in this area, and I know there's probably some guys saying, man, you shouldn't have said that because now everyone's going to come here.
Yeah.
But as a guide, I'm just willing to share what we have here, and just because I know how much it means to me and how much joy I get from it, that I just like to see people come here and have a great time.
Yeah, and the one thing you said there, I've caught some slack for that. Oh, why are you bringing people here? Why are you doing all this? In reality, it's not easy, even if you know where to go or what, or just even general areas. Like, people, it's going to take a diehard to really want to
Absolutely.
do it. And I like those people. So I welcome, those people
Absolutely.
to come in, and you'll have, I do get frustrated sometimes, as we all do, but I think there's way more positives that come out of it than the negatives.
Nope, you're so right. And I mean, it does so many good things for the economy. I know years ago, like I've talked to people who, used to own like restaurants and hotels, and they would count on those weeks of deer season and bear season. That would be some of their best sales of the year. And if we're trying to bring back what that used to be, at least to a small portion, I know there's a lot of businesses out there that and people that we might be, because of that, we might be paying their bills through that part of the year. Or it has so many great effects. It's there could be a couple bucks here and there being shot, but for the most part, it's not like bringing, I usually guide 20, 30 people a year, and say if even half of them get something in a 200,000 to 300,000 acre piece of land, does that really,
affect anything?
Yeah, it doesn't really cause much of a problem. And most people that come here, this isn't for the guy, like you said, that gets his license and opening day, he goes out there. I mean, we have those kind of guys, but those aren't the guys that are usually filling their tags every year. I say it many different times, many different ways. Consistent success here is a lot of work before the season. So even if we invite and broadcast people for all over the country and say you should come here and hunt, if a lot of them just came here in one day, they'd probably never come back, because there's a lot of work that goes behind what you and me, that we do in these kind of woods.
And it's funny to me, like, even when we do all this scouting and stuff, I'll have 3 days in a row sometimes where I won't see a deer.
Absolutely.
Like a single deer. And I've always just said it so many times in my head to get myself right, because it's pretty easy to get down in those situations, even when it's going to happen. You just got to.
Absolutely.
I always I might not see a lot of deer, but I always have, at least 1 or 2 really good encounters a year. You just got to wait for them, and you got to capitalize on them.
Yeah, capitalizing is the big part.
The big part.
Because, I mean, if you get a chance at one big one a year, that's probably your only chance.
Yes,
so.
that's a very, no matter how hard you work at it.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. Like, you kind of sense when you see a buck coming in, like, you sense if it's your opportunity or not. And, like, there's like 10 things going through my mind when that opportunity comes that I'm like, I got to make sure that I make this happen, controlling my breathing, and make sure when he steps into this opening, was that the right shot? Or you also don't want to be too patient and let an opportunity go by either. So it's when I get that opportunity, like I said, I do my best to make sure that I capitalize, because that opportunity probably won't come for another year after that.
Yeah, and there's no good your opportunities are never going to be, well, no, I shouldn't say never, but usually aren't ideal. Like, you are usually trying to make something happen, and you're not going to be able to have a deer out there and range it as it's coming by. You got to be, I don't know how you do it, but I'm ranging stuff ahead of time to have ideas. Like, always, dead times, I'm trying to figure out where areas are, because I know when something comes, you got to be ready, and you're going to be field judging it,
Absolutely.
And there might be a window that's the size of a basketball that you end up trying to weed an arrow through, and that's
I really like how you brought that up, because last year a guy, and he's even a good friend of mine, that I guided the first week of gun season, I just guided him, and we saw 75 deer and 15 bucks in, I think, 5 or 6 days, and he did miss 3. And I'm not saying, like, I can't say any of these shots were like 100% like guaranteed, but on another note though, like, I'm talking to him, like, what are you seeing? Are you getting a shot? Or, because I'm standing right beside him, and he's like, well, I can see like a 6-inch square of the shoulder, and I'm like, well, just pull the trigger.
Yeah.
But where he has come from, like he said, that's not like a great opportunity, which I totally agree. But in the big woods, like, that's an opportunity though. If I see shoulder, I shoot. It's not like you're going to get these wide open opportunities where a deer's in a field and just standing there eating alfalfa or something. So it's the shooting is very challenging too, and you just got to make sure when you pull that trigger that you were on them and you made the best of it.
Yeah, and that's like, so when you're talking about gun hunting, like that's no guarantee of getting it done, when you're shooting, because you got so much brush, and you got to think about that with your bullet. You don't want this light, fast bullet that's going to deflect off all the brush, because normally, even if it looks clear, there's stuff in the way.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, no, that's true too. I mean, we talked going into this that there's so many different things in the big woods environment that we're hunting that there's so many reasons and ways that it's definitely the most challenging kind of hunting. The shots you have to make, the scouting you have to do, the way the wind is so inconsistent. It's definitely brutally challenging. But like I say so many times, when you do have success in such a challenging environment, that's when it's like, wow. Like when you have that success, I can promise that the feeling you get from it and the joy it's really, you can't even explain it.
Yeah, and it's funny you brought that up. Just the other day I was having a conversation with my girlfriend, and she got to see me through turkey season. And turkey season isn't easy,
No.
here either. And I was getting up every morning for the first couple of weeks and going out just for 45 minutes before work, but every morning. And she's like, you look miserable and tired and all this stuff. And like, she's like, why can't you just like go out and, and it's funny. And I'm like, oh,
yep.
She hasn't been through deer season yet, but
yeah, that's going to be even worse.
So I was like, well, it's hard to explain, because once you get that success, it's so worth it. And it's not that I'm actually miserable doing it. I love doing it, but yeah, it is a lot of work, and there is a lot of points that aren't necessarily the most fun when it comes down to it, but it's the most rewarding thing for me to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm not like against anyone, and I've said this before, but for anyone that's never heard this opinion from me, I'm not against anyone that likes to travel and hunt all over the country, because in reality, I need people to travel to come here for my business. But but I get a lot of opportunities where people will contact me and say, hey, I own a guide service, or I'm an outfitter, and I'd like to swap hunts. I'll come for free, you come to mine for free. And the amount of time that I put in here, like, I have so much invested into this that I don't want to go anywhere, because it's like anything else. When you invest so much into something and you have such a short season, that it's like all my time and my investment wouldn't be worth it if I was only hunting 1 or 2 days here, or missing out on some of the best times. So that's this kind of place here, as challenging as it is. I just know for sure that I don't know if I'll ever find something to make me give me more joy, and I'll find anything more passionate than the big woods here in PA.
Yeah, 2 years ago, I went to Alberta on a trip, which was amazing to hunt whitetails and stuff, but it was the first week in November, and I didn't have a lot of time off of work. I had 3 days off before that to hunt Pennsylvania, and it rained pretty hard like the whole time, so I didn't get it done there. And the whole time I was there, I'm like, I'm hunting in some of the biggest buck country in the world, and all I could think about was my dad sending me photos of everyone at camp coming in with, it might sound crazy, but I can't give up hunting here. And like, I even tried to tell myself that for a few years I wouldn't take any vacation for Pennsylvania, and I would focus on some more Western hunts and stuff. And I just can't give up I need at least a week.
It's in your blood.
Yeah, you have to. And
I agree.
It's like you said, you put so much time and investment into it. So Steve, let's talk a little bit about, the big woods is just a lot of land. Like you said, a couple 100,000 acres you're guiding on here. There's so many different ways of looking at it and scouting, but is there anything specific, like when you're going into scout an area, like that you have at the top of your mind, like this is what I'm going to be looking for?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Like I'm always at the upper part of the hills. I rarely go low, and I know like during the rut, bucks are running like crazy from ridge to ridge, and you can have success down in the creek bottoms. But any deer, no matter buck, doe, or yearling, like they're all bedding up high, and I might not be one of those guys that likes to hunt right on top of beds, but I want to be where deer are during the day, and I'm a big believer. And a lot of the sign and that you see is made at night, like especially the stuff down low, because when deer are moving, that's when they're making more sign, and they move more at night than at any other time. So I like to stay up high, and I like to be around cover, and that's just because that's where the deer like to be around here. So I'm always focusing, for the most part, up high around thick cover, and then. Like I said, the woods are so big here that it's not like you can pick out any ridge with some cover. You just got to put your time in. Sometimes there's spots where it's like, man, the ingredients were there, but I didn't see the sign, or I've ran cameras there and nothing showed up. So this is an area that you have to put a lot of time and scouting in. It's not like I think our deer herd's decent, but it's not like it's polluted with deer.
Yeah.
But that's what I like the most about it is it's not easy, and I like putting the work in. So, but for the most part, I hunt cover. I don't hunt on top of beds, but I hunt within 200 to 300 yards of them, and I'm just trying to be where I feel the deer are going to spend the most time during the day.
Yeah. And a good point that you were saying there about, that where they leave the most sign isn't always necessarily where you're going to run into
Absolutely.
them. And that's such a hard thing to learn. And, even with, so I do hunt creek bottoms a lot, but it's only a certain time of the year.
Yep.
And it's got to be the right scenario. It's so hard. You can't just say, you can hunt creek bottoms and you can do good, or you can't just say like you won't. It's all dependent on the setup. And my creek bottom spots are normally thick cover ones that have different valleys that they're coming off these tops, cross into another one. And I have these spots that it's not like you're looking at, say like a Midwest or Western creek bottom, like open and stuff.
Big,
you're not
wide open field.
Yeah, you're not. It's not what it's going to be.
Sure.
But like you said, most part they're up in those upper thirds, at least where I'm finding. So
absolutely.
How the question I have with so you're talking about bedding and stuff. How are you finding specific bedding, or how are you? I know it's like, how am I trying to word this? What are you looking for as far as beds? How do you know it's a buck bed, or how are you assuming that they're using those areas?
Sure. Really, for the best way that I've ever learned is just running my cameras. But I find most of my beds in the off season, and sometimes even in the off season, you're not even for sure if it's a bed. You might just see like an impression, but just for the reason that I don't want to get too off topic, but in the wintertime, a lot of these bucks aren't bedding where they are in the fall. It's different when you come upon a bed and you can almost smell that a buck's been in there. Like in the rut where a buck's been laying, if you get 10 feet from there, you're going to smell it.
Oh yeah.
But it's a lot different now. So you really gotta, or in the off season, you really gotta keep your eyes peeled and almost know like the kind of spots where bucks like to bed.
Yep.
But sometimes I'm still not for sure. It really looks like a buck bed, but the only way to do it is either to go in there and bump them and see, or what I do more is I run cameras. And I don't run cameras right on the bed because I tried it a couple times and I could see where the deer weren't using that bed as much.
I tried that before.
You did too. Yeah, no, they don't like that.
No, they really don't like having a video camera right on there.
Yeah, and the thing why I don't want to take that chance too is, especially when you find 2 or 3 of what you think a big buck's bed is, I don't want to throw him off and make him go somewhere else. So I'd rather just back off a little bit, and I try to find like maybe entry and exit routes going to those beds, and then I'll run like clusters of cameras all around them. Like there might be 3 or 4 cameras within 100-yard stretch, or within 100 yards of the bed. Then I'll back off and run some more cameras in a bigger circle, like on scrapes or rub lines or trails, like, people know that I run a lot of cameras. I'll just say it right now that, last year I was running like 80 some. This year it'll probably be 100 some. But it's not like it's in a line of 15-mile stretch and there's two cameras every mile, or however that would be. Like most of my cameras are in clusters around bedding. And what I try to do so I'm not bothering these beds is I check the ones farthest away more, and then the ones closer I check less often. But if I'm seeing a pattern, like I was in another podcast the other day, and this is something I've kind of maybe kept a little bit secret, but think of it like the defensive, like in a baseball field. Like, say home plate is the bed, and then I start throwing cameras like pitcher's mound, first, second, shortstop, third, left, right, center, and I'll start focusing, like most of my camera checks are just in the outfield. Mm-hmm. And then if I'm seeing a lot of activity in right field, I might check first base and seeing if there's even better activity. Maybe, say in right field, I'm getting a buck like an hour after dark. So then I go to first base, and if I'm getting him there, I'm hoping to see him maybe right at dusk. Or so you see what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to run these cameras in a cluster, just hoping to catch maybe some kind of pattern, or at least something consistent where the bucks are entering and exiting those areas.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And do you? I want your opinion on the. I'm going to go back to your camera strategy because that's awesome way that you put that. But with the bed specifically, do you find them using one single bed or an area?
I find an area more than a single bed, and it's not like the bedroom. Like, it's not like in a room. Yeah, it's usually like for the most part 100 to 300 yard stretch or something like that, depending on the terrain, the cover, a lot of different things. So, and I know that there's bucks that I only know 2 or 3 of his beds, but he's probably got 20 or more or whatever. Yeah. Like, you don't have to find every bed. You want to try to get an idea on, where he's bedding. And there's also bucks that, not every buck out there, even mature bucks, not all of them have just one patch of cover that they're bedding in. They might have 3-4 different ridges they're using, and that's where the big woods gets even more challenging when you're hunting one particular buck, because you might be spending, days of just wasting your time when the buck's not even in that particular spot. Yeah. So it does take a lot of luck, but mostly, what I found is the more mature bucks, especially like early in archery season, most of them really are locked in a tighter area. So I think it's a great time to kill one, but boy, they do not move much in the daylight. That I can tell you that.
I've always struggled with early season, and I don't hunt as much. My time's usually spent towards the rut, but still, like I don't feel like I have a good grasp on. There was a couple bucks that it was too late by the time I ended up kind of thinking I figured them out, but they had this super tight area, and the only time I would get them coming out, I was getting some daylight photos right on the edge of this cover of buck I explained to you on the way here, Hercules, and he was coming out of this thick cover. He would always bed like right on the edge of it, and then there was this big cherry flat that was just above it, and when I would have black cherries, I'd get some photos of him right on the edge of it coming out, just at dusk, or the same thing, or just as it's getting dark. But it's the early season stuff is not easy, and tough. Cover's thick everywhere at that point, Yeah,
and that's another good thing you brought up is in the early season, there's a lot more bedding than what people think. Like, leaf cover makes a huge difference as far as creating bedding cover, and I find that some bucks in the early season are bedding in places like you might have scouted it in March or April when there was no leaf cover and it looked wide open, and you're thinking, oh man, I wouldn't expect to find bedding in here, so you don't even look for beds. But then you go in there in September or even October during the season, and then it's pretty thick because of the leaf cover, and we're kind of sometimes overlooking areas. So the early season, to me just offers a bunch of different challenges, and but I will say, there really is no better time to to get on a buck because he's not running pretty much from ridge to ridge all day looking for does. And if you do have an idea what he's doing and it's a particular buck, that's probably your best time to get an opportunity.
Yeah. What's your favorite time to hunt?
My favorite time would be the last week of October.
Okay.
And even sometimes, roughly, the teens of October can be really good. I love to hunt cold fronts like October 15th to October 25th.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I swear every big buck around here, if we have a cold front, then it's going to be on his feet some that day, like more than usual. And what I like the rut. Guiding, I don't get to hunt the rut a lot just because that's when all my clients are coming.
Yeah.
But I would still pick the later October period too, because the thing about the rut is when bucks get on does, like people think that's the time. But really, a lot of times when a buck's on a hot doe, they're not doing much of anything but just spending some time in their own little place.
Yeah, some
it's like they're
time.
on their honeymoon or something. And like truly, I like it. There's a little window of time when does really aren't in heat, and bucks, the testosterone is built up to a point where they just can't lay down all day anymore. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the best time to be out there. And it's just often, it's might only be a 5 to 7 day period later in October. Yep. And I just feel that's the best time.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel weather dependent
Absolutely.
Can really make or break that. Like,
absolutely.
You get a cold front in the October, and if I have to work, I can't focus because that's when that first real cold snap there is going to be something. And that's even like, I think, was it last year, 2 years ago, we had a real cold snap like around October 18th or somewhere in that time frame.
Yep.
And my cameras lit up.
There you
like
go.
My scrapes were lit up, especially the ones that were closer to bedding, but they were like daylight photos where before the scrapes were starting to get opened up, but it was more nighttime activity and it started getting
That's why I'm just very fortunate that, being self-employed, I can't imagine oh man, big cold front and I got to work all day. I feel, and I truly, I am blessed for that. And I feel for anyone that doesn't have that flexibility in their work. Cause if you can just hunt the cold fronts in October, I can't even explain how much your success rate will probably go up.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was like. I wish I could just pick and choose days to hunt based on, because I feel like that ups your chances so much with it. But I wish in school they would have taught me whatever you learned about because what do you tell a little bit about what you do as your full-time?
Oh, sure. So my main business is landscaping, and honestly, it was never like a choice. Like I'm going to do landscaping because I want to have more time to hunt. But I'm just glad that that's what I turned into doing because my first year, like when work slowed down, and I was fortunate to save quite enough money to get me by for a little while. I was like, man, I got all hunting season, and you know what? Like, I'm glad you brought that up because there was more about that, like me, choosing to guide people. When I'd have roughly 2 months off, like there was almost like a guilty sense inside, like saying, you know what, the good Lord gave you this gift. All this time to spend in the woods and you're just out there for yourself. And I was like, I should be taking people out. And it wasn't even about the money or anything. So, but I'm just so fortunate that, my job, I get that little bit of a break period where it slows down, and it just slows down for in my opinion, the best time of the year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, when you said that, I was like, that's awesome.
Yep. No, I'm very, very fortunate. Believe me, that's I just feel so blessed, and I hope that it can stay that way the rest of my life.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So looking at, talking about your time of year and, your favorite time of year and stuff, and you're scouting and you're finding these beds and wanting to be somewhat close to them. Yep. What does your setup kind of look like? And does that fluctuate depending on the time of year and or give me a little bit about that?
Okay. So even all throughout October, like my setups are pretty much pre-planned even now. Like I may not have exactly an idea for sure all the spots I'm going to hunt, but in the off season, all my stuff is, pre-planned. Like I probably have like 50 spots. And even though I'm a guide, like it's not like I'm like hogging the best spots either, but a lot of my guiding doesn't take place till November anyway. So, but for myself, so I got say 50 spots right now planned that I've scouted, and then closer we get towards that last week of October, whether it's, from my cameras, sometimes it's just on a hunch, then I'll start to narrow down what ones I'm going to choose. But what I'm kind of looking for is, especially if I can locate buck bedding and I know what buck is in there, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find a spot that's like a medium ground of not too close but not too far away. And every spot like that is a little bit different. A lot of times I have to set, like say if it's a buck bedding inside of a clear cut, a lot of times it's just on the edge, because walking through clear cuts are some of the most noisy woods you can walk through. There's little sticks everywhere, brush you're pushing through. So a lot of times, I'm right on the edge. Every setup I have, literally there's a scrape, and a lot of them aren't, real deer scrapes that were started from deer. Like if I locate buck bedding now, if I locate it in the off season, say March or April, I'll make a mock scrape then. And I last year especially, I kept rope with me, and like I've probably got like 50 or 60 licking branches out there, and I'm already trying to get bucks in those areas, like knowing, hey, just outside of here, you got this awesome scrape that all the deer eventually are starting to use. So it's a scrape is another reason to get a buck to come your way.
Yeah.
I am looking for like maybe a lot of times if it's a real active bed, there are trails going to and from. Sometimes there's 5 or 6. Sometimes they're even just really faint, and you got to really pay attention. But I'm trying to find a spot where I'm not, right on top of him where he's going to hear me or smell me, but I also don't want to be a spot where he's coming 8, 9, 10 at night. So
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And so with some of the setups there's, and you sounds like you're a lot of times on the edge of that thick cover that they might be bedding on. Is there any sort of terrain features that you look at, or is it more vegetation, or does that all kind of depend?
Well, if I'm trying to find actual beds, the terrain is really important, because like I would say like 95% of beds are near an elevation drop. Elevation changes. They like to bed. A lot of people say it's thermals, and somewhat is, but look at it this way: like when you're especially a mountain deer hunter, like if you build like a ground blind for opening day of buck season, and you're trying to pick a spot, we pick those same kind of spots where you have like a really good visual. And that's another reason why they like elevation, or being like right on the edge of an elevation drop, is because there's a really good visual there. They want to be able to see anything that's coming below them. And a lot of times they even like to see what's coming from all directions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people think bucks are bedding in the most nastiest, thickest patch of cover they can find, when from what I've learned is a lot of the beds I find they can actually see fairly good anywhere from 20 to 40 yards around them. So when I'm trying to find specific beds, I do look for the elevation changes, like near, where there's a bench. It's got to be like very level spot too for them to bed. Even though when I say it changes in elevation, they don't bed on a real steep spot where it's like they're laying on their side about ready to roll down over the cliff.
Yeah.
It's got to be a comfortable spot. Yeah. So, I'll look for those elevation changes. But number one, I'm always in cover looking for bedding, because I find that it's really hard to distinguish buck and doe bedding when I get out of cover, because I find a lot more does bedding out of the cover, and it's just like, I don't know if this is a buck or a doe. And then, I just know from past experiences that when I get into cover, I find a lot more bucks, especially nice bucks.
Yeah. And as far as the cover that they're, do you happen to see rubs or anything around the bed? Does that kind of help you signify that?
I find more rubs on the edge of the cover than I do inside. I always find rubs inside, but I talk a lot about signpost rubs on the edge of like a clear cut.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us just think that it's just kind of a natural spot for deer to walk, and which it is. But I'm a big believer that rubs are a lot more than just a buck, rubbing his antlers, building himself up for the rut. Like, I believe rubs are visual signposts that are like, hey, this is my property. Or a lot of times rubs are where maybe two bucks' core areas come together. A lot of times that's a spot where you'll find like an active scrape where several bucks are kind of working this area. But for sure, almost all the mature bucks that I've found, and I found their beds, like, they're not laying next to other bucks through mid-September through the end of October. Like, they got a spot to themselves.
Yeah.
It's not like this time of year in the summer when I've literally jumped 6 bucks together, and they're a completely different animal now than what they are in the fall.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's around here. If you start to put your time in and you're locating, once you locate buck bedding, you'll see that there's like tendencies, and the habitat and the preferences that these bucks are choosing are very similar. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it's just really, I'm not going to say it's easy, but I really think it's something everyone can do. Once you just go out and try it out a little bit, and then when you can finally prove to yourself that hey, that was a buck, or this is buck bedding, then I'm telling you, anyone can do it.
Yeah, and what helped me a lot too was if I got to an area that met a lot of the criteria you're talking about, say like a drop in elevation and stuff, and say edge of some thick cover, yep. And I started getting to where rubs started getting closer together. Yep. Then I it's not always this case. There's everything in the big woods. There's never like a one set rule.
You're absolutely right.
But
yep.
I tend to get excited thinking they're probably a bed somewhat close. And if I start seeing some that are coming from this way and this way, I'm like, okay, maybe there's some exit trails.
Yep.
And, and then you might be able to find a bed that way. And a lot of times I don't ever find that single bed. Like you just get a feeling. It sucks to explain this on a podcast, but like you get a feeling like this is a buck bedding area.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's so hard to articulate, but once you spend enough time doing it, you kind of start to figure that out a little bit.
Yep. I'll just bring up real quick too, like a lot of times I'll say I know where a buck is bedding, and I've never actually found his bed, but if I'm getting a lot of camera pictures of him in the daylight, well, by God, I got to be near his bed. So now it's just a question. I just hope that I'm not too close to his bed, especially with my setup. And, but for the most part, if I'm getting good daylight activity of a buck outside of the rut on my cameras, I'm confident that I'm probably pretty close to his bed or bedding area. And I'll just accept that, as long as I'm getting daylight intel, then that's all I really need.
Yep. That's that's exactly right.
Yep.
So when you go to do these setups, what's it look like? All right, you're going to go in, it's hunting season. You're going to hunt this buck or this bedding area or this spot. Yep. What does that look like as far as, how much time are you going to spend there before you move on, or what's that kind of look like? Because you had a post the other day on Instagram that really, it'll probably be a few weeks ago now by the time this comes out, but that talked about a strategy that you have about being kind of patient with it. And, there's a big thing and I fall along with it too with, mobile hunting. And I think there's mobile hunting and being impatient sometimes can go together. And there's also, there's just a weird line there of knowing when to go and when to stay.
Sure. Well, yeah. So one thing, let's talk about, we'll talk about the 3-day strategy because that's important. And then after that, I think we should talk about mobile hunting because I have some different opinions on that and how I do it.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure we don't forget that. But anyways, so my 3-day strategy, like it was never something where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try something different and I'm going to start hunting particular stands for 3 days straight and see what happens. What I learned was from running a lot of cameras, like I would find maybe 40 or 50% of some of these really good spots that I found, like within 3 days, I was getting certain bucks on them, like especially in what I call the best time, like late October. Like, geez, if I would have hunted that where that camera was for 3 days straight, I would have had an opportunity at that buck. Like if you're right in his core area and you know some of the, maybe the community scrapes or the most active scrapes in that area, especially close to bedding, that during that peak window, especially of scrape hunting, most likely I would bet pretty good odds that out of 3 day stretch, he's going to hit that scrape once, sometimes more than that. So it was my cameras that led me to that strategy. And what I do is I pick in a week in 6 days, because Pennsylvania, we're just getting into the the Sunday hunting, but very few days, obviously. So really, we only have 6 days in a week for the most part. So I'm hunting. I got 4 stands that week, and I have, say Monday through Wednesday, I got a morning stand I hunt 3 days in a row, and then I got an afternoon stand that I hunt 3 days in a row. And it's not always based for sure that I think it's a morning spot or an evening spot, but if I have had past history with, it's showing that it's a better morning spot, that might be something that makes me hunt there in the morning. But why I don't like to hunt or invest my time the whole week into one stand, because I have learned in the big woods, like, you got to find like a balance. You can't be bouncing around a new stand every day, but yet it's hard to throw all your money into 1 or 2 stands too.
Yep.
So I've just found that if I have 4 stands that week that I hunt, and I hunt them really hard. I'm not just hunting these stands till 9 o'clock. I'll hunt them till sometimes 11 or noon, and then I'm maybe for an hour or two. It's not like I'm going home or taking a nap, or I might in that hour or two I'll probably do some scouting or whatever. But I'll even get back in a stand at least a lot of times by 2 o'clock, even that time of year, because just like I said, a lot that I've learned has been on cameras. But yeah, what I've found is I'm very confident if I have 4 really good stands that week, and I hunt them each in 3 day stretches. Like my morning stand, like I said, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Afternoon stand, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I go to completely different stands, but 2 stands. So 4 stands in a 6 day stretch. I'll tell you what, almost every year I've done that. I've either killed or had an opportunity at a nice buck, and usually a buck that I was expecting to see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting, and
Yep.
I, like you said, I've in the past I've done it not necessarily from like a 3 day standpoint, but I've spent multiple days, and I remember one spot I sat for 5 days, which might have been a little bit overboard, but I ended up killing a deer in that spot, and it was on the last day at noon. But anyways, it was just when you have certain spots that you have confidence in, like you can't, just because you're not having that action that you want to have, right off the bat, because here is different, and I'm not speaking across the country or anything, but here is different, and there's so many different trails. They could be moving, that buck could be moving 70 yards from you, and you don't see it.
Absolutely.
Or hear it.
Yeah.
And you got to put the time in. And last year I was hunting all new spots, and I honestly wasn't as confident in them, and I got in my own head, and I moved too much. And
there you go.
That was a reflection at the end of the year. I was like, you really screwed that up. But you just got to learn from it, and you're going to screw things up.
Definitely.
But yeah, I really like that idea, and I like to move, and I like to hunt different spots. But at the same time, you got to know, know when to go, and when to fold them, I guess. With it.
Yeah, and I'll bring something up too, and especially in this area, you have to make a choice. Do you want to be a hunter that wants to see deer, or do you want to see a deer? That's my mindset. Like, I don't care if I go the whole season and I only see just one deer one particular deer that I want. Like, that's what I live for. That's what I hunt for.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing deer out of my stand, but that's not really why I'm hunting. I want an opportunity at a good buck. And if I have to hunt, 10, 15 days and not see a deer and just that one buck, I promise you I would take that over anything, because I just want that one opportunity.
Yep.
Because like I said, we're hunting an area where, I do believe our part of Pennsylvania and a lot of other areas in Pennsylvania have gotten really good. But this isn't a place where you sit in the stand every day and the actions every minute or hour, however you want to put it, like this is big woods hunting, and you got to be patient, and you have to be willing to take the highs and the lows. There's points where it just, I've questioned myself. I swear there's not a deer within 10 miles.
Yeah.
But then it's like, no, your mind's just trying to play tricks on you. So that's just what I've learned, that if I have, not just a couple stands, but 4 or 5 stands and not 20 stands, there's like that balance. And if I put my time in those spots, I've just been very fortunate. It's really worked for me, but I believe there's something behind it too.
Yeah. This year, so based off of my findings from my reflections last year, I went into scouting this year saying I was going to not just scout 15 different areas, but try to focus on 5 areas. Yep. And even that's probably too much, and then kind of really get to know them like the back of your hand and focus on them, run more cameras into more of a cluster, kind of what you're talking about. Yep. And do it that way. And I feel a lot better about,
I promise you're onto something.
Yeah, I feel so much better about it. And it's hard because I like seeing new stuff. I like scouting new ground, and I'm always like, I have a problem with that, and I just want to keep going and checking things out. But if you want to be consistent at killing deer.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can't base tomorrow's hunt on what you saw today. Like, especially, like I keep saying around here, in fact, even in guiding, like, we'll have a guy have like the most awesome day in a stand, and you couldn't pay him $1,000 to go somewhere else the next day. So then he goes there the next day, and he might not even see a deer. And then he's like, well, what the heck happened? It must have been the wind, the weather. But then you talk to 3 other guys in camp that they didn't see much out of their stand the day before. Now today it was incredible.
Yeah.
It's just all about putting time into spots. And in these woods, like, you can't predict, like, I know the does are coming through at 4, and I know this buck shows up on Tuesday. Like, it's not, it's like being inside of a pinball machine. Like, they're moving.
Yeah.
But you just got to be at the right spot at the right time. You know? And it's not all just luck, but it's just a matter of knowing what to look for, believing in yourself that you're doing it right, and then just putting the time in.
Yeah.
Yep.
I really like that mindset with it. Sure. So go into let's go back to what you're talking about with the mobile hunting.
Yeah.
And your thoughts on it.
Yeah. What I really like I am not the kind of person that would ever go into a spot like blind. I know there's a lot of people that will even get like on, I know you're a big fan, of Onyx, which I am too. I think all that stuff's good, but I'm not the kind of guy that, oh, wow, that just looks like a really good cut. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to find a tree in the dark, and I'm just going to see what happens. Like, I think it can work, I'm sure, because you've already found good cover, but I like to find everything in the off season. Like, I really want to go over an area, and it's almost like reading a book. Like, I just want to see, from sign, just getting a feel for what the area is like. It's all my stuff's based on scouting. So as far as, just going in and, throwing a stand on my back and, then taking it back out with me, like, a lot of my stuff is preset just for the fact that I don't like to go in a little bit unsure of things and my surroundings and that kind of stuff. Yep. So I'm more about having stands preset, but I like to get them out well in advance. I'll just say it like that.
Yeah.
A lot of my stands, I just don't throw them up one day and hunt them.
Yeah.
So anyways, but where I call myself mobile is I don't hunt much out of ladder stands. and I'll hunt out of climbers. I don't have a saddle. I think saddles are great though. I like how people are using them. But when I'm mobile is when I get into a spot, and we haven't talked much about wind yet, but I'll get into a spot and the wind's not right. But a lot of times I know I can move 100 yards. Like I hunt out of climbers mainly. I'll already have a backup plan if the wind's doing this or that. I already know the tree I'm going in. A lot of times the lanes are already cut. Like I've cut tons of shooting lanes in March and April, just picking a tree out and getting things cleared out then rather than just going in an area and winging it. Because, we talked earlier about in the big woods here, you might only get 1 or 2 opportunities a year if you're lucky. I don't want, when a buck comes through, and it's especially one that I've really been hoping to see, I don't want it to take the risk of, man, I just didn't have any shooting lanes or I just picked the wrong tree. I think that's one thing that we can eliminate in the off season by even picking that actual tree out. Where am I going to set up? And then when I am there, I already have a good idea, what I'm looking at. So
that is the toughest thing. Like when I go into an area and I'm just picking a tree on the fly.
Yep.
You get up there and I'm like, I wish that branch was out of the way.
Yeah,
there's like
exactly.
That's a giant struggle. So like, yep. I do the same thing in the spring as far as like, I'll even if I'm hunting, quote unquote mobile, yep. I'll take my saddle or my stand and my sticks and I'll climb a tree.
Absolutely.
And I'll kind of see what that looks like. Someone was giving me shit about it. Like, why do you walk around? Why do you scout with your saddle and your sticks? And I'm like, because I actually set up and want to see what that's going to look like, and
that's a great idea.
And to be able to see it, because I've done that far too many times, getting into a tree, and I basically screwed up the whole hunt because I don't have the right stuff going on. So if I can do some sort of prep, and same thing like you're doing with a climber, that's considered mobile hunting, from a standpoint of that. But it's not reckless. I don't know if reckless is the right term, but it's thought out, I guess.
Oh yeah, and I think that might be a benefit of the saddle though, is like I'm not going to go through the woods all the time with a climber.
Yeah.
Especially I might be shed hunting, or I don't feel like carrying 20 or 30 pounds on my back, and I'll climb up this tree and then I got 5 more other trees. Like a saddle, there's really no weight. So I think the saddle hunting that people are doing, I think it's a great idea. Maybe someday I'll get into it. I'm not trying to talk like I'm too good for it, or it's just it's just one of those things. I've already got a ton of stands and I've been getting by the way I've been doing it, but I think the saddle hunting is an incredible idea, and especially like you said, and what you did there in the off season. Because I have at times, like I'll have a tree picked out for my climber, and I'm trying to guess. Like I don't have the climber with me, but I'm like, well, that looks like I need to cut this and that. But if you're really not up in the tree, a lot of times you don't really know for sure where your lanes are. Yeah. So I think that was just a great point that you brought up. But no matter what, at least what my point is I don't think it's a good idea to go into areas blind, and if you're not using a saddle and just always taking your stands in and out, or I like to leave my stands in there, and I do think maybe for a little bit deer might be a little unsure, but I can promise that with cameras or anything, heck, you can throw a car out in the middle of a bedding area. After a while, a deer just get used to it. Yeah. So it's just a matter of them getting used to it. And but the more you can prepare yourself in advance, by far, it's going to make a huge difference.
Yep. And I think that's where it comes down to too. Is so if you're spending time in the off season, we all have a certain amount of time to do things. If you're focusing on a few areas, you can focus on more of those details with it and the prep and all those things that line up to something instead of free balling it, for lack of better terms, just like, and then I don't want to say half-assing it, but it's kind of what it comes down to at the end of it. And that's what I realized that I was doing a little bit of. I was just going so many areas. I had all these good spots, but none of them were, I was like getting 60% of the way there. It's finding the sign and the thoughts, but not getting it set up for actually killing, know.
And one thing, I want to jump back on to the 3-day strategy. Like, what I want people to understand, and there's probably a lot of other people like me too, but I'm really only getting like 1 week a year to really focus on an opportunity for myself. And I think if you're a fortunate person where you might have 3 or 4 weeks, then I do think you could have, a dozen stands or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is don't be the guy that's hunting a new stand every day. And especially still try to do the 3-day strategy. Like you might have 12 stands, but have those 12 stands in a 3-week stretch or for your 3 weeks of when you're going to hunt. And then, then do the 3 days in a row. I still suggest that I know a lot of people really love all-day sits, but I still believe in the big woods. I don't like to throw all my money even in one stand. Like if you're a lot of stands, like I even brought up earlier, a lot of spots, or it's like a 1 out of a 3-day window, it's going to be really good. So maybe, so you've hunted somewhere in the morning and you didn't see a deer. A lot of times there's a good chance that you weren't going to see a deer there in the afternoon because the deer just really aren't working that area that day in the big woods.
Yep.
But now you've got another chance that day to still get in on the last half of the day's action somewhere else. So you're still bouncing around, but yeah, it's not like you're just going from stand to stand each day.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And that makes, I like the way that you explain that. So are you typically, when you have like the afternoon sitter, is it going to be in the general area or sometimes you completely relocating?
I wouldn't say like general area, like within 500 yards, but I don't want to spend hours either. Like sometimes I might have an hour walk to my stand, and then I might have another hour walk to another stand, and then who knows, maybe a half-hour drive. Like I think then I'm taking a little bit too much time out of my day.
Yeah.
So that might be another reason why I pick my stands ahead of time, because I might say, well, I know that I can get to that stand here and that stand there within an hour. Yeah. Maybe not even having to go back to my truck.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm not just setting up stands either. Like, okay, this is where I'm going to hunt that day, and I'm just going to throw another stand 500 yards away. Like, then I believe I'm being maybe, I don't know if I want to say picky or maybe a little less precise. Like, I kind of want to be in a whole new area with maybe even different deer. Like, I just want to see something different. And especially if it is getting closer to the rut, a lot of what's pulling bucks into a certain area is a hot doe. And I'll find that if there's one hot doe in an area, like that spot might be good anywhere from 1 to 3 days. And then after that, it might be a week or two until another doe comes in heat, or who knows. So that's why I kind of like to, especially more around the rut, I'm hoping to be somewhere where there's a hot doe.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And when what was I going to say? Oh, so when I say you're hunting, and how you're saying some of your clients that come to camp, one guy will come back and see a whole bunch of stuff, and the other guys won't.
Yep.
That's why it's a blessing and a curse at this when you have cell service in places. But like I'll have like a group chat with my family, and like my one uncle will be like, "Oh, it's on fire! I'm seeing bucks all over," and I'm like, "I'm not seeing a damn thing." And but there's each area is, like you said, get hot, and
exactly.
and sometimes just relocating at that time, and that spot you're in now might be hot in 3 days, it might be hot tomorrow, it might be hot in the afternoon, you don't know. But
no, you never know for sure.
It's I like that. Yep. That kind of way of thinking about it.
And like I said, and I'm not saying that all day sits are a complete bad thing. Like, there's probably a lot of people that can say they sat all day, and at 3 o'clock they killed the buck of their lifetime without hardly seeing much. But I've just learned that I think I need to be a little bit more spread out, but not like I said, just not hunting different stands every day.
It's a game. It's a game of odds. There's always going to be. You could mess up by switching the stands. You don't know, but you're trying to put as many balls in your basket as you can.
Yep.
Definitely. Yeah. No, I'm following along with you. Good. With you there. Well, anyways, Steve, where can people find some more information on you, and then your guiding service as well?
Sure. Yeah. First best place to look would be social media. Facebook, just look for Sherk's Guide Service, or Instagram. I have an Instagram page too. Same thing, Sherk's Guide Service. I also have a website, sherksguideservice.com. And that's pretty much it. I get an occasional email on that, but I prefer to, people reach me at those sites to start. And I just before we close, I just want people to know that this isn't just a business. I don't want to consider myself just a hunting guide or out there to just take people hunting. And I want to be more than that. I want to be the person that you can message me, and I hope that maybe I have a tip for you, or, when you're having a tough season, don't be afraid to shoot me a message. And I'll always find a way to encourage someone, because I really am trying anymore to represent that as hunters. And I just have this feeling, the way that I see the world going right now, like we have to all come together. We all have to make sure we're on the same team, because you can see how easily our rights and our privileges can be taken away now. Like, we've seen certain things. You can own a business and it can be shut down in a second. And without us being united and together, I promise our sport can be taken away in a hurry. So that's another reason why I'm just glad that I can reach out to so many people. Is I want everyone to be on my team, and I want to be on their team, and all of us be on the same team.
Yeah.
And let's all, I hope and pray that we all can just have a great 2020 hunting season, despite all that we're going through. Because I know the future, even this next season, looks a little bit scary, but I know for sure I'm going to do whatever it takes, no matter what laws get made or what we're told. It's going to be tough to keep me out of the woods this deer season. And I'm sure you're the same way too. So let's just all make sure that we are encouraging one another, wanting success for everyone. And if we do that, we're all just one big family. I don't think anyone's going to ever be able to take what we love away from us.
That words couldn't be said any more true than that. That's being out there for everybody else and not bickering amongst each other. There's enough of that going on out there. Let's be in, the woods are all, we can all agree on the woods is our happy place.
Absolutely.
So let's agree on that. So Steve, thank you so much for coming on and welcoming me into your camp full of all these giant Pennsylvania public land deer. And and I look forward to, we'll definitely do some scouting videos.
Absolutely.
Now that we live so close here, we'll have to get together more and talk to you.
I'm looking forward to it. So
cool.
Can't wait.
All right, Steve. Well, we will talk soon.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of East Meets West Hunt with your host, Beau Martonik. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit eastmeetswesthunt.com, Facebook at East Meets West Outdoors, and Instagram at East Meets West Hunt. If you enjoyed today's episode, please review and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.